Hey guys, welcome to what I'm thinking will be episode 2 of For Sits and Gigs, or the Sits portion of For Sits and Gigs. Today I've got Sam and Leo from Impartial.
Hi.
Is Leo okay? You right with
No, I'm just super overexcited to be one on a podcast / videocast and two to actually be in a pub with a beer. It's surreal.
Yeah, don't tell everyone. I don't want everyone to be aware that we're in an empty pub because it might start a shitstorm, but it's fine. It's okay.
We were at an undisclosed
I like
location.
hinted, you just explicitly...
We were at an undisclosed location Kevin's brought us to.
Yeah.
He set up his house
written,
to look like a pub. And it's really working for me. So.
I mean, I feel like that's how I should have spent lockdown, just turning my house into a pub, really.
I was looking at my kitchen and thinking about it.
Alright, first things first. Tell us about the band. Tell us how you got your start.
The band's sort of like... Sam and I worked together for a long time. We actually met ages ago back in Hamilton. We went to high school together. That's when we sort of met. And we both moved away and then both ended up in Ballarat. And we just started making music and stuff together because both of us had a handful of songs that we'd been working on each. And we were just
Bring it together.
Yeah, let's bring it together.
Yeah, we started out, we'd get together whenever we could. And I was living at Mum's place, so we'd just get in amongst the bunk beds, basically, and not together, but... Right.
We had a bunk bed each, obviously.
It's a very stepbrother shit right there.
Yeah, we just had the little Tascam set up on a coffee table in my upstairs bedroom, and we just slam shit down week after week and title it ridiculous titles.
Yeah, they were pretty awful.
Eventually, we just sort of said, right, we're at a point where we sort of want to get some shows going, so we advertised for a drummer online. I don't think we did a bass player that time. I can't even remember.
No, we weren't sure. We decided that we definitely needed a drummer, and bass was if we get one, that's cool.
They're around. You just need to go to a mental asylum or kindergarten to pick one up.
Yeah, exactly. We just put that on the Facebook page, the Ballarat Musos Facebook page, and we got Chloe in. She was the only person I think that expressed interest,
which was fine,
which is good. Yeah,
it worked out really well.
Yeah, it worked out super well. So for a while there, it was just me, Sam, and Chloe, and that was a shed.
Yeah, we'd moved out of the bunk bed situation by then, and we were up to a shed situation. So we
were
moved
balling,
up,
straight balling. We were in a shed. It was dope. And eventually we decided that yes, in fact, we do need a bassist, and same process, advertised. This time we had 2 people to apply. So
which was a 50% increase in previous.
Yeah,
the hype was real.
The power of decision making really, it almost drove us mad. Honestly, we were it's just all this power and responsibility. We went with Shay, and that was sort of that. We basically just sort of started doing shows. I think our first show was at Corova, back when Corova was Corova.
Yeah, it took us we were probably playing a good 6 months together before we had our first show. We were always talking about it, but we'd moved to Shay's shed, so we'd changed sheds by that stage.
And it's like changing schools. It can be really disruptive.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were working on some material, and we were getting all the songs that me and Lenny had sort of nutted out in the early days and just playing through them, getting them ready because we'd been working on them the longest. We still had other things in the background, but our priority was to get ready for these shows coming up. So we just wanted 4 or 5 good songs that we could play, and we already basically had half the bulk done by then. So
the first show at Corova was insane because we'd all sort of played in bands before. For me, it was the first time being, because I played drums and bass previously. So it was my first time being really at the forefront,
Sounded decisive, if anything.
Yeah, doing a lot of vocal and guitar stuff. So it was really exciting for me to, and I felt like it was my band. Before that, I always felt like I was playing in other people's bands.
Yeah.
but now it was like really close to my heart. So I was like, yeah, and it was like we had a lot of fun. I think it was probably like shit, and I know there were technical difficulties, but
as there always is.
People reckon we were pretty good. The like 3 people that were there were like, you guys are freaking sick.
Well, that's a start. That's all you really need. One person to come up to after a show is better than fucking anything.
We got our best photos
oh, well,
from
that's a
that
swear.
show
Okay,
as
cool.
well.
Yeah, of course we can swear.
Like that was fine. We got best photos out of any of our gigs at that first show.
Yeah, that had no right to happen, but it did in fact. Actually, no, I say 3 people turned up, but it was really heartwarming. A bunch of my friends who live in Melbourne like made the trip down to Ballarat, like specifically for this show.
That in itself is rare. Actually convincing your friends to come to a gig.
And I didn't know they were going to, because you're like plugging it on Facebook, but you know, everyone hits the like interested or like, oh yeah, like maybe I'll, you know, if I'm not doing anything, which I am. But they didn't tell me they were coming. They all just showed up. So it's like pretty.
It was really good. Like despite the technical difficulties, i.e., my guitar getting stuck on extreme high gain the whole show, it was very good. Like,
as far as like your writing process goes, is it very much you write separately and then threw stuff together, or do you sit there and write together now?
It's developed. It started out that way. Like I just bring in an idea. Like this is a Leonard song. This is a Sam song, pretty much. But it's nowadays. I mean, Sam and I basically do the songwriting. Like so, we do it almost separate from the band. We go in and just like have a studio sesh basically where we spend hours upon hours trying to sort out 1, maybe 2 ideas. But yeah, so that is very collaborative. I think we both do stuff on our own as well, but when it came to writing for the band, it was very much just like
it had a certain style when we had to write for. Before we put the band together, the chains are off. We could do what we want. We could come up with whatever absolute garbage would float.
That's true. It was pretty.
But when you're in a band and you're playing shows and you've got to sort of create this, I don't know, sound, I guess people would say, for yourself. You sort of got to try and stick to it a little bit more than what you would do. You know, throw on blast beats here or. You know, grindcore breakdowns.
Yeah. Well, in saying that, did you have different influences in mind for each of you? Like
Sam and I listen to a lot of similar music, so we never really conflicted too much. We've got a lot of similar ideas of how music should sort of structure and stuff. So, I mean, at the same time, like we're not like just a carbon copy of the same person. But yeah, like Sam said, like writing for the band was very much writing for the band. Like, so in that sense, you kind of limiting yourself a bit, but that can also be good because it helps you be a bit more focused.
Definitely, I think it was really good to be able to write for the band because you couldn't let yourself get too carried away. Like, you know, I grew up as a teenager listening to fucking thrash metal and shit, and you know, songs that go for fucking 8 minutes before you get to a goddamn middle B. You know, like I was listening to a fucking Periphery song the other day on YouTube, and I went for 17 minutes, and there was a goddamn ad in the middle of the fucking song. Like, fuck's sake, you know, like. So
yeah, you're definitely thinking about how you're going to perform a song and how it's going to go when people listen to it. Like it's almost you like, are the punters going to be into it? Right?
That's it.
Like,
so you got to rein it back. You got to bring it into that 5-minute mark. You got to have a flowing structure. You can't have anything too out of place. You don't want to limit yourself where you're not able to sell the band as well. That's something that we kind of always considered, is how well is this going to sell and how much are people going to pick up on it and how catchy is the song going to be, because if the song ain't catchy, no one's going to want to fucking listen to it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, because like a lot of musicians, they go by on like just like not compromising on the art, or you get the opposite end of the spectrum where it's like manufactured specifically to appeal to this audience, and it's almost like focus grouped, right? And I think you can have a bit of both. Like, I think you can really try and make a song that you think it's not so much for yourself, but you think people are going to enjoy it.
I suppose in that sense, it's how much you really want to push your genre as a sense. Like, if you lock yourself into a place, then you're stuck with that. You've got to try and make that the sound the whole time.
Yeah.
Because if you're a bit more fluid about it, it's okay. Like,
we're sort of balancing it because, like, I think it's okay to do that kind of thing, like have sort of an audience in mind and that sort of stuff. And it doesn't feel like you're compromising anything.
Yeah, where we had the audience in mind, I mean, we did simplify our songs a lot for writing with the band. But we also took all of the things that we liked and tried to incorporate it within that simplicity. Like, we didn't hold back. We still, when we were writing for Remain Impartial, we had breakdowns, we had screaming bits, and we had fucking rap sections. We had big band horns in one song. Like, we fucking just went all over the place.
That's actually true.
Like, in doing that, it still kept with our style somehow.
I remember we played like the Battle of the Bands, and there was like a metal band on the bill, and like one of our songs was like definitely heavier, like like a breakdown and stuff.
I noticed. For anyone that's not aware, we've worked together before on the Battle of the Bands. And that was, I loved that night mainly for the sense that I was able to get a few different genres thrown in there. I think so many people were thrown off by Haunted Steel, which is the metal band. And it just no, but I just mean like they were off guard when they started playing. They're like, oh fuck, this is happening. Like,
this is real shit.
Yeah, and it just made it like.
Yeah,
but I'm glad it had an influence on you on the night as well.
It was such a cool night. Yeah, that was fun, and everyone there was really chill and like intermingling, which was really awesome.
We did another Battle of the Bands shortly thereafter to yours, and it's just unbelievable how different two atmospheres within Ballarat can be.
Yeah.
That was the Eastern?
That was at the Eastern, and just the different sorts of styles and things that are around. Like, you didn't see them at all in your Battle of the Bands. I would say, for lack of a better way of putting it, your Battle of the Bands was more commercial despite Haunted Steel's growling presence.
Yeah, this one was very much like, it was very like that, it was like indie and like that Australian type punk that's sort of coming up at the moment. I think
one of the major differences there is that the one they put on was all ages, where ours was specifically sort of over 18. And obviously the more predominant force coming through in the younger crowd now is indie stuff.
Yeah.
Indie's huge right now.
Yeah, we were like the boomer band in that situation.
I'm fucking already feeling old and like.
Yeah, I feel like we were definitely a bit of a black sheep in that.
Yeah. In saying that, like, we're different from a lot of other bands around at the moment in the way that we use backing tracks and all sorts of things. And we've literally, when we played, we had Chloe with one. Well, it was a headset actually, I think, but she had literally all she hears is click, click, click the whole way through the set. Like,
she has it up so loud as well.
She's fucking unbelievable. Like, there's playing as a drummer, and then there's being able to fucking multitask like that as a drummer, and that she just blows me out of the water being able to do that shit.
Yeah, she's
because
really
all she
good.
Hears is the click and the bleed through. That she doesn't get a single direct feed.
I find that insane too. For like, she's considerably younger as well, isn't she?
Yeah, she's younger than we are.
Yeah.
Next topic. Before all this happened in March, you guys released a single.
We did, and we had a run of shows to support.
And they never happened.
You had one sort of decent show lined up that got canned last minute, which is right when this sort of all started falling apart, really.
Yeah, that was going to be our big single launch at, it's not Corova anymore, Volta, that's right, yeah. And for those out there that haven't been there yet, they've done a really good job with Volta, and you should definitely check it out.
I'll do that.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you Deadpool, please.
When we're allowed back in there, please go.
We had it lined up. We had plenty of people coming to the audience. We had 3 support acts or something, and it all just fell apart because it's right when Corona kicked off, which couldn't have fucked us more
it was
heavily.
pretty maddening because like it was right at that point where it's just on the edge and like people didn't really know what was happening, and basically over the week leading up to the show we just had like one band after the other like drop out, and then like it was like at the end it was like just us, and then Volta was like, yeah, we're not doing it, and we're like,
Yeah, we were doing our Wednesday night open mics there. We'd only done like 3 weeks or something.
Right, yeah.
The last one was like, everyone knew it was the last one. I think there was like 5 of us there.
Yeah.
It was mental. And it was just sad to sort of watch that slow death of the music scene like going into this. But
the thing about it for us was that we felt like we were really coming up to a like pivotal moment for the band. Like we just released our first like professionally recorded single, and we were like sick, like we're going to push this, we're going to do a few shows, we're going to get some cool bands, and we're going to really like expand our reach.
We were doing we were planning shirts and all sorts of shit. We'd been writing more songs. We were actually at the point where we were about to go back to the studio and start recording other
like
we
had the studio on the line to
we
like,
literally had it already booked out and everything, but it just fell to shit. So I really should have gotten a pint instead of wonderful.
Speaking of the single, I have to ask, what thought process, or whose thought process decided to put a chiptune version on Spotify with it?
That was mine. I was like, I have no idea what possessed me to do it. It's cool. Every time his phone fires up, I'm like, yes. I was like listening to the song at home, and for whatever fucking reason, I was like, yeah, this needs like a chiptune version. So I just like made it. I had these, I think I was like dabbling in it at the time. I had these synths, this really cool one that like you import a ROM of a Super Nintendo game, and it like gets all the sounds out of it, and then you can use it as a synth.
Seriously?
It's insane.
It's fucking cool.
Fuck, find that and send it.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, that has like Yoshi's Island. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island sound effects in it, and just like general like chiptune synths and stuff. So I was like dabbling in at the time, and the song was a thing, so I think in my head I was just like, yeah, like why not both? And I was like, it kind of gave me a really cool idea that because we knew we were going to release a lot of singles and not like an album or EP straight away, I was like, let's just give the people something else. Like, let's do a B-side for every single, and this was the plan for all the singles that we
it's basically the equivalent of someone releasing a single and then having the acoustic version.
Yeah, that's exactly how I thought of it, and I was like, it doesn't have to be a chiptune next time. It could be like a fucking club banger remix, or it could be an acoustic version or something. But I feel like
no matter what we did in that circumstance, the B-side would always be better than the A-side.
That was a fear I have. I like made it, and I was like, fuck, people are gonna like this more. This sucks.
I've created a monster.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't know. I had sort of half a mind to like maybe catch a different audience as well. If I thought about that harder, I probably should have promoted it to people who enjoy chiptunes and stuff.
Anyway.
But yeah, I just thought it was a cool idea. And I think any single I do moving forward, I'll probably try and do a similar thing.
It sort of came off the back because we have the chiptune drums at the start of the song, so I think it sort of catapulted that idea a little bit. But
yeah.
Like that song in itself, like literally me and Lenny were probably 7 beers deep that night, and that fucking song just came together like that.
Yeah, because I had this riff. The whole idea for it was like, I want to take like a really basic, like that 4-chord pop pattern, but I want to like just jazz it up so it's not quite recognizable with the extended power chords and stuff. And I brought it around and showed it to Sam, and he just started singing like straight away. He was like, no, and I was like, yep. That's
cool.
it, man.
Perfect.
That's it. And
And we haven't been able to do that since.
And that was the best songwriting day we ever had, and it's never happened again. And actually, that sort of makes me think, he said that then, like, I think we always go in, and this sounds terrible, we go in sober and with a purpose. Whereas, like, I think we should just, like, the really successful times we've had, we've just been drinking and, like, fucking around.
Literally everything I've ever written, I've been pissed.
Really?
I think
you just let go
I'm
of
not
that.
encouraging it, but it helps.
It's something about just, like, you know, leaving behind, like, the sort of inhibitions and just being like, fuck yeah.
I think the major part, like, for me, like, lyrically, if I'm thinking lyrically, it just helps, like, reminisce and go back to a time when you did have something to write about.
Yeah,
like, if you're
true.
sitting there now and nothing huge is happening, you're like, where do I get the inspiration
That
from? Like,
song has got no substance to
oh,
it.
I know.
Yeah, but that's sort of, I think that's another thing. Like,
It's
also,
very
like,
much a single. Like, it's...
Yeah.
And but it's good. Like, it is catchy. It does flow.
It was originally written about a crackhead girl that went to Hollywood and got duped. Like,
we decided to make it a bit brighter than that. And I think that's, like, another thing about just, like, drinking songs and, like, writing songs while you're drinking and stuff, is that, like, it doesn't have to be about anything. You can just, like, say, drop dead, you look too pretty for that.
I'm just kind of shocked that you didn't draw that from personal experience, really. Like, I feel like Sam went to Hollywood at one point and he was just a crackhead.
hey man, got a quarter.
It was a dark time in Sam's life, and we'll talk about that off the record.
All right, the big beast itself, lockdown. How has it affected you guys?
In a way, like, for a long time we sort of tried to do things via correspondence and, like, send each other.
Before we keep going,
stuff.
like, Chloe lives in Geelong and
Yeah.
Shay lives in Brunswick. Like, that was what we were battling with already from the start of the year. So.
Yeah, so they were already sort of commuting down to do rehearsals and stuff. So it really exacerbated that. We probably honestly didn't handle it that well. Some bands definitely, like, leaned into it and made the most of it. I don't think we did that correctly, if I'm being honest. We knew we weren't going to do shows anytime soon, so we shifted our focus to recording. But I think what we didn't do enough is, like, focus more on output and, like, quantity. Like, we didn't release anything in that time. And in a way, it, like, really put the band on its ass. Like, it was really destructive for the band. And, like, even at this point, like, we don't really have an answer for, like, if and how it's even going to continue, like, what we're going to do, like, when does lockdown lift, when do we start doing shows, is there any point even being in a band at the moment, or do you just, like, Sam and I always be co-writers, and that's probably, like, the primary relationship that we have. So in recent, like, the last month or a few weeks, basically we decided we're just going to get in and kind of get it back to roots a little bit, back to the time even before the band, where we were just
back
like
to the bunk bed era.
yeah, right, the bunk bed sessions.
I think that's all you need. You just need an empty shed and a bunk bed, and that's, you know.
Yeah, but we're going back to just, like, jumping in a room and just doing whatever comes out. Just being like, oh, our current song, the most recent one, it's, like, really, like, emotional and builds slowly, and then it just has a full-on fucking, like, blast beat, and then solo in the middle. Like, it's just goes flat out. So really getting back to having fun with experimenting.
It's still very much remain impartial in a way, but it's a sign of things to come, I think.
I'm glad to hear that there's a solo, because I think I was listening to the first release today, like the EP or whatever it was. And there's a track on there that has a killer fucking solo in it.
Sam just knows his way around the solo, man.
And I was just like, yes, I like it when people just cut loose, you know.
I'm not the best solo player in the world, not by a fucking...
I get emotional when I hear that,
mile.
man. Like, I'm in the band and I'm like on stage and I'm hearing you play that solo and I'm like...
Chloe was having a real shit day one day and she was fine, and then she just lost it as she was drumming through that solo one day.
She was drumming and like tears coming down her face like this. It was such a beautiful moment.
So creatively, obviously, you're saying you've got back on track recently. Do you think the writing experience has sort of changed since you've been stuck indoors and doing nothing? Like, do you think it's been harder to find some context, something to write about in general? Like?
Me, not so much. It's like being stuck indoors is not the issue in itself.
No, I don't think so either.
With me especially, life gets in the way of being able to do this sort of stuff. So like I'm corresponding to Bendigo 3 times a week for work, and I don't stop working around the clock. My phone's on call, so it's like I've got to specifically put the time aside to do it, and the time that I do have to do it is time that I should be spending with my fiance and that sort of thing. And Lenny's a married man, he's got the same sort of thing in his life.
It is funny about that because like we sort of almost had like the opposite problem that you'd expect us to. Like we are still almost too busy. Like we're constantly doing stuff. It makes it feel really fun when we do get back together and do stuff, but also you almost feel like you're on the clock a little bit, like time's precious, time's a wasting kind of thing. But yeah, I think as far as writing process goes, it's really a matter of getting back to roots, going back to when we didn't have a band, because we kind of don't at the moment. Like there's no point having a band currently, and just going back to that co-writer relationship and going back to being a bit more liberal and a bit more open with the stuff that we write. It's a lot less focused and a lot just like if it sounds good, it's going in. Like it doesn't matter if it's really heavy or if it's really light.
Gone back to quantity over quality, to be 100%. Like we just want to get stuff out there. If it floats, it floats. If it sinks,
well,
it sinks.
I mean, that's and that's how a lot of successful sort of rock bands do it. Is they just write and write and write and write, and then they just start scrapping what they don't use.
Like when he said, we're on the clock, and we don't want to be. We just want to make the most of the time that we have.
Yeah, and in saying that, I think we were almost approaching a bit of a problematic situation as writers where we were getting too focused and very much being like everything has to be perfect and tight and great. And in that sense, it really slows down your output.
Well, yeah, you sort of lose touch with what it felt like to first start writing in the first place, and that excitement of just putting notes on a page.
It's
totally.
fucking nothing better than hearing a banger of a track come together. But it ain't so shit hot when you listen to that same track 7 months later still trying to correct it.
Yeah, so it's been good to let go of that a little bit. And as far as you're asking in terms of like songwriting and subject matter, I'm pretty happy to like not talk about the pandemic at all about music. And in fact, for me, writing personally, I'm almost like more of a storyteller. Like I try and create, I think my songs are like scenes. Like if you just took a scene out of a movie or something like that, it's just about that. It's not like a full expansive story, and it's not like a abstract concept. It's like a moment in time, like a vignette. So that's sort of how I write, and it doesn't have to necessarily be true. Like Hollywood obviously is fictional, but yeah, we just really believe in the story, so we sing it passionately.
Well, that's the thing. I'd hate to hear that you've just been writing about a pandemic this whole time. That would just be depressing, I think.
The only pandemic song you need is Parasite Eve. But Bring Me the Horizon. They made the 10 out of 10 song. No one else needs to touch it, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I've been depressed with the way that the band was heading in recent years, but that is a bit of a banger. I will agree with that one. Do you have any sort of, obviously it's hard to make plans at this point, but do you have any plans for the near future as things start to unravel, things start to open up again?
I got a big answer to this, so...
I also have a big answer, but
You go first.
Same thing.
I feel like I've been talking a lot.
I don't know. I don't ever know if we're on the same wavelength or not. Like usually, I just roll the dice and it works out for us. But
Roll the dice, man. What have you got to lose? Just my friendship.
Just embarrassed, you know.
Fuck, I don't want
on
to
the
say.
internet too.
I don't want to
like.
say anything now. I don't know.
No, you
maybe
go.
you plan to just fucking move to Hawaii and make island tunes. I don't know. Like,
Fuck, no one's supposed to know about that. Nah, you go first, man. I'll tell you if you're hot or cold.
all right. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking me and Lenny are fucking. You know, we're at the point now where we've sort of let go of the band a little bit. Like, there's no point piss fighting around that anymore. We've let go of Remain Impartial and we've all sort of split off our separate ways. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you hadn't picked that up by now, that's what's happening. Me and Lenny is sort of working together. He's bringing his own ideas. I'm meant to be bringing my own ideas, but haven't brought anything to the table yet.
Sam always gives me this like, I don't like generate ideas. I like
I
like work with
everyone
ideas.
else's.
It's like you need to start a song and then I'll like do the rest. But that's the hard part.
Yeah, it's like, I'll fix your songs up, but then you can also be the sucker that programs all the drums.
Correct. Anyway, continue.
So we're thinking we're going to do this two-man band sort of thing. Like what we said before, we can do what we want. We're flexible in our style. We can throw elements, whatever we want together and create a song. And we can churn them out like fucking butter. You know, like it doesn't have to be good quality butter necessarily.
Yeah, just letting go of that real focus on like perfection.
But we got an idea, and just so no one else takes the name in the meantime, we're going to be Play School Dropouts, so watch out for that.
Brilliant.
So that's the direction I'm headed in. Now Lenny's going to tell me how different his idea
This is him announcing that he's leaving you.
Yeah, I'm giving up music forever. I sold all my guitars. Yeah. No, I think I would sooner die. Anyway, no, I think that, yes, but also for me, just on a personal level, I really needed, because like the way the band's just sort of like died pretty much, was really discouraging for me. So now I've decided to sort of like focus on number one a little bit and just like really start building a personal brand. So as well as like what I'm doing with Sam and like Play School Dropouts, still having those writing sessions and still doing that fun stuff, I'm trying to do a lot more in like for myself and release a bit of my own music. So I've been putting up like not as much as I should, but like some guitar covers, and I'll start doing some vocal covers and stuff as well. But I really want to start being a musician in my own right and just like getting in on stuff. Like if someone's like, oh, hey, we need a guitar on this track, I'll just go in and do a sesh. Or if shows come back, like fingers crossed, and someone's like, oh, we need a fill in for this show, I'll be like, yeah, I'll play bass or like whatever you need, and just do a bit of that. Just start really getting into it in a lot of varied ways is really what I'm looking to do. So if you need a guitarist or whatever, it's fucking
lead triangle player.
I'm a little bit the same. I don't have the time to be putting covers and things up, but like I'd love to be able to just jump in whenever I got 5 minutes and put a guitar down for someone or do some fucking screaming over the top of the track because I can't sing for shit.
just a bit more freelancing stuff, and that stuff is cool because you can just like jump in and then jump out.
There's no commitment, which we like.
Yeah, well, there's no pressure, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say the one that recently got married and the other one that is engaged. Yeah, don't like commitment, no.
Yeah, so just trying to spread out a little bit more and just get involved in a bit more thing. We got so tightly focused with the band that it's really good to just like open things up again and just be ready for new experiences and that kind of thing. So that's really what I think both of us want to do. Get back to having a lot of fun with music and just like getting involved in like just attending shows and like talking to other musicians. And
it just got to a point at rehearsal where it wasn't even fun to show up. Like,
yeah, it was almost like going to work, I want to say, and I think the girls will probably agree with this. It was almost like stressful. Like you'd be like, oh, we need to make sure this rehearsal goes really.
And I think that is the biggest killer too. The moment that you start considering music a full-time job is the moment you start to lose passion for it. So
and that happened probably a year ago.
Yeah,
like realistically speaking.
Yeah, and we survived that way for a while, but I think the whole pandemic and stuff showed us that like it was just
the way to do
more trouble than it was worth. And that's part of why I said I felt like we went about it the wrong way. It was like we were trying to keep a business afloat through the pandemic.
We would don't get us wrong. I mean, I'm not speaking for any, but I would go back to being in that band in a heartbeat if we could do it the right way and if we could get it to work. But I just don't think the layout with the distance between us is feasible.
Yeah, and now's really not the time. Like, there's going to be no shows anytime soon, and it's still a really uncertain time for bands. So I think we would definitely we love that music, and we had so much fun in that band, like doing shows. Like we thought our shows were really fucking cool.
They were
and we
not.
that New Year's Eve show was fucking lit, bro. It was good. But like we love that band and we love the songs that we made for that band. But yeah, at the moment we're just leaving.
I think it's like it's a testament to self, like how short of a time period you guys had to do as much as you did. You know, getting basically an EP, a single, playing a gig in Melbourne. I mean, that's a foot in the door in itself. A lot of people find it so hard from Ballarat especially to break into Melbourne and play a gig there in the first place.
Yeah. Speaking frankly about the Melbourne gigs, that's what we thought as well. We were hoping they'd be a foot in the door, but we had countless Melbourne gigs, and you know, we were lucky if we got 2 people and a dude's mum.
A lot of them had less attendance than our Ballarat shows.
And the promoters for those shows weren't very accommodating with us for other shows that would help us gain momentum either.
Yeah, because you know, when you're at that point in a band, you're really looking for like maybe an opening slot for a bigger band. But we were like headlining.
We were going up
we were
on
like
Thursday
nobodies,
night.
right? Like
That's it. They were like, hey man, do you want to come to Brunswick and play a show on a Thursday night at 7 p.m? Like, not really, but sure.
And like the only person in the bar is like this dude who's just trying to have a fucking moment to himself, and now this loud ass band is playing. So
he just happens to sit there every Thursday just to drink.
But yeah, that was sort of a thing, except for probably that New Year's Eve show, which is our...
The New Year's Eve show was good, but we also got duped on that a little bit, which was unfair because we didn't get food.
I just remember we played that show and then I just went and got...
Oh, sorry, no, they told us free drinks all night, and we were lucky to get like 1 beer between us. So
this is why you have a rider and you get it signed. So they have to give you... They just have to get you drunk, basically.
To be fair though, we had an awesome dinner as a band that night. That was really good across the road.
That was dope. That was a really cool place.
At the hookah bar, yeah.
The hookah bar, Blackout, yeah. Big recommend. Blackout. Hit us up.
Give us a sponsorship.
Really?
I'll wear clothes with Blackout written on it. I'll drive a Blackout car. I don't give a shit, man. Just fucking do stuff.
All right, last question for the night. What do you think the biggest thing of the last 6 months? Like, what do you think you'll take away from it?
That's hard.
Friendship.
Maybe the real pandemic was the friends we made along. I would say we learned that it's easy to make being in a band not fun for yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think the next time we do a band project, if it's a continuation of Remain Impartial or if it's something completely new, which it definitely could be, is we're going to put the fun and the music first and the business second.
Yep.
Because I think we were just trying to be a bit more professional than we actually were and taking ourselves a bit too seriously.
Definitely.
And Yeah, definitely learning to prioritize and everyone says this when they're giving advice to musicians, but it can't be stressed enough. Just like put shit out. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you just have to be doing stuff. And I think that's something we really neglected for a long time.
I did notice when I went back through the Facebook page today, and
yes,
but it's also one of the hardest things to do. It's something that I've taught some of the younger musicians coming through now, is that you need to constantly put out content, and whether it's just a photo or a video, or just say, hey, this is what we're doing at the moment. Like, it's one of the hardest things to do, but it's of key. It is key.
Absolutely.
Once you've got that momentum, you've got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Would you add anything, Sam?
I would also say, no matter how much you spend on gear, that gear is still going to fuck up. That's the life lesson I've learned.
No, fair. All right. Anything final to add?
Hit me up. Let's collaborate.
Yeah. We'll share this around so that people, I'm sure, people will find it and they'll hit you up.
Actually, lastly, I just want to say thanks for doing this. It's a really fucking cool idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing what all your other interviews have to say. They're probably way cooler than we are, but.
Did you just say all our other enemies have to say?
Yes, all our competition. It's just dog eat dog out there, man.
Well, you've just admitted how fucked you are at the moment, so I think you've just that's not.
Yeah, we're in a position of great weakness.
Let me come and play for you. No, thanks for coming on. No, it's been fun. Moving forward, it's definitely going to be, I think, as far as like the podcast is concerned, it's going to be fairly diverse in what I've got.
Awesome.
Obviously, like I said, like you guys are probably the first sort of band I've talked to, which is good as a perspective thing for this whole situation, of how things can turn. And
kind of like a what not to do.
Yeah. Sorry we didn't have a
cautionary tale.
Sorry we didn't have a feel-good story for you.
No, but it's good to shine a light on this sort of thing, because obviously, like the reason I really wanted to do this stuff is because we're the biggest industry that's suffering right now. It's the music industry, so obviously I need both perspectives. I didn't know you were going to tell me how horrible things had been. Okay, I didn't know that coming into this.
We didn't say they were horrible.
We could have told you in advance, but we thought it'd be more dramatic if during.
I'll have to. As much as I hate editing and I'm
go back
I'll have to edit in some really emotional music.
You can pinpoint the exact moment.
Thanks for coming on tonight, guys. It's been a ball.
No,
it's been awesome.
Thanks for having us.